Okay, here we go. Now, I appreciate you can't see my head, but I thought it was more important for you to see what I'm actually doing than to see my face. So, first of all, back to the Tradescantia. I just realised that you couldn't really see this one on the first video. So these were a few long cuttings, and what I did was just chop them up into pieces, and I'm just going to simply root these in water. Okay, so just leave a few leaves on the top, and I'm just going to put those on a windowsill till I can see some roots, and then I'll pot them up. So that's the houseplant Tradescantia. Here we've got now the hydrangea lace cap. So if you can see, a nice big one this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this bottom part here off. I'm going to pull the leaves off at the bottom, and this is where it's going to root. Those are new leaves that started. This is going to root from this part. Okay, on a big shrub like this, sometimes better just on one side, just to do a small scraping, and gives it a bigger surface area to root. Okay, so this is going to be one cutting. I'm going to cut it again there, and that's cutting number 2. So because these are enormous leaves on the hydrangea, you don't need all that. You need at least 2 leaves, but you don't need all that. So I'm just going to simply cut them in half, and doing this reduces the surface area for the actual plant to dry out. We want to keep it what we call turgid, so these leaves need to be standing upright and not flopping. The little leaves in there, they'll start to grow probably around the same time as the roots are growing. So I've got 2 terracotta pots for these. I'm just going to make a hole in the middle and push it down more or less to the bottom. Okay, now this is going to take probably all winter to root. Label hydrangea lace cap, 16th and 9th pink. Always label what your cuttings, because I promise once you get them growing you'll forget what they were, and you know it's a bit of a nuisance then. So that's all there is to that particular one. With bigger plants like this, I tend to use grit, and I like to put that along the top. That sort of stops the things like slugs and stops them from drying out. So as I say, this is going to take all winter to root, so I'm going to pop that in a cold frame where it will get some light, and I might water it again before winter really sets in, but I probably won't water it that much at all. You just need to keep it damp, and the moisture in the air will keep it damp, so probably won't need to water it at all. So we'll see what happens with that one. Now the top part of your cutting, again, that's going to root from where these leaves are, so they're going to come off. You can use a sharp knife or your scissors. I'm going to give that a bit of a scrape, and I'm going to take out those central leaves. Okay, so we've just got the 2 leaves again. This is very short cutting, this one, but that's fine. You can do it, you know, from 2 to 6 inches. It really doesn't matter. So I want to reduce the surface area. It's about this time now you could pop it into some rooting powder if you want to, but I don't know, I find that especially women have got some sort of hormone in their skin, and I don't know whether it's an old wives' tale or what, but you can sometimes, if you just touch the actual area that's going to be rooting, they reckon that does help. I don't know if it works the same for men, but it does for women. Okay, so that's 2 hydrangea lace cap cuttings that are going to go in the propagator. Not in the propagator, beg your pardon. In the either in the cold greenhouse or you know, some, you could even leave it outside actually. It doesn't have to go in anywhere. You could leave it outside if you haven't got anywhere to cover things. So label on that one. Now I thought I'd do the rosemary. Hope you can see. I don't know whether that's slightly better. Right, so when you get your cuttings, when you're collecting them, get them straight into water absolutely as soon as possible, and let them soak for an hour or so. Not in the sunlight though, but you know, in somewhere shady, but do get them into water. So that's the cutting. There's nothing much I can tell you about that. It's just a piece of stem. I'm going to take the top out of it to reduce it that way, and hopefully then it'll bush out. Smells absolutely wonderful. That's about the right amount of leaves to leave on it, and with that you just push it down into the soil. So the pots I've filled and watered, so they're done then. So I'll take the top out of this, just simply pull off the bottom leaves, so you've got a nice little bushy plant, and I'll put 4 into this little pot here. So bottom leaves off. So anybody can do this. It's easy as wink, and it's so satisfying when they've actually, you know, root. Out of these, maybe only 2 will root, maybe all 4 will root, you don't know. So, but these will root a bit faster than the hydrangea. With these small things like this, you can, after you've prepared it, you can cover it with a plastic bag, you know, a puffy plastic bag and an elastic band, and pop it on the windowsill, as long as it's in the light but not strong sunlight. So that's the rosemary, again nicely labelled. And we have a square pot now. These are just different pots. I always reuse pots as much as possible. This is quite similar to the rosemary, and as I say, it's a semi-ripe cutting. So this is this year's growth. It's got a little bit of a flowering tip at the top, so I'm going to take that off and try and get them without flowering tips, but you know, if you can't, then take it off. And again, you can reduce the leaves, and then the plant will stay turgid. Okay, so that's one, and we can probably fit 4 into here as well. If you prefer to use rooting powder, then do. It does tend to make things happen a little bit faster. I won't put plastic bags or anything on any of these. I'll put them all in a cold frame, and keep my eye on them over the winter. And we'll win some and we'll lose some, but generally you win most of them. So that's convolvulus, little ground covering shrub with white flowers. Very pretty. We've got it in a small wall round on the patio, on the family patio. So we've got 4 of those into there. Okay, and that's labelled. And then lastly, I'll just show you the salvia. Now that is the flower of the salvia. It's a pretty blue one, and I brought these from Somerset. So they've been in water all night. I put them in water before I left, and then put them in a plastic bag wrapped in some paper towels. Okay, so there's quite a big cutting. I'm going to take that top bit off. I'm going to reduce those leaves by half. I'm going to take those leaves off. And now I'm going to, where there's a leaf joint, that's where they'll start to root. So I'm going to go to there. And with this one, you can see the semi-ripeness because it's a lot stiffer at the bottom than it is at the top. And that's what they mean by semi-ripe. Okay, so that's one. Again, just pop it in. And if you can see, there's just a couple of leaves just sitting on the top of the compost. And this one is a bit shorter, so I'm just going to take the central tip out, take that one off, and that one off. I'm just going to straighten the bottom so that's pretty good. Might just take the ends off. So we've got two different sizes there, but it will come to the same, roughly the same end. Okay. I do like these salvias, and I've got hot lips over in one of the pots, which I'm going to do, and I've got a pink one there, which I'm going to do. I'll take the bigger leaves off, and I won't cut those in half. And I'm just going to take the end off there. And I managed to root some over last winter and planted them in the garden, so I was quite happy with those because now they're, you know, they're a full size. So that's just a few. Some plants, as I say, you can root in water, like the Tradescantia. I'm thinking mint, you can root in water. You can root things like carnations. If you get a bunch of carnations, take the flower off the top, or pinks, they root in water just so easy. Take the flower off the top and do the same sort of thing lengthwise. You want about 5-6 inches in length, but cut off, they've got, if you think about it, they've got like knobbles so far down on the stem of a carnation. So if you just cut just below one of those thick knobbles, that's where the roots will come out. And just put several in a glass of water, and they'll, I guarantee you'll get roots from some. So then you can pot them up, you know, as and when. So that's semi-ripe cuttings, and I'll leave that one for there. You can do other ways of you know, building up your stock of your plants by doing things like roses. You can do great long cuttings, but you can actually root those in the ground. You just you don't dig a trench, you just put your spade in and put the cutting, which will be about 10-12 inches long, just put it 3/4 of the way into the slit where you made with your spade, and that will take about 12 months, but it will root in time, so you can do several of those. So I hope you found that interesting, and if you've got any questions, you know, the usual way, just ask away. Okay, thanks a lot.